Good day, everyone. Welcome to Chat Physics Live 2022. Thank you for coming to my talk about how to set up and run a Key Stage 4 STEM club. I know it says physics on the screen, but it's mainly going to be physics, engineering, and a bit of chemistry and biology in there as well. My name is Jamie Mayville, and some of you may know me as @JammyPhysics on Twitter. Again, thank you very much for coming to this talk. Now, some of you may have some initial questions when you first start setting up your physics or STEM club. Now, I always think to myself, what is your aim of doing this club? Okay, why do you bother to set up the club in the first place? Because it can be quite labor intensive for a teacher. So you need to have a clear focus in your mind about what the whole point of it is. Next bit is, which kids are you targeting and why? Are you targeting year 9, 10, 11? And when would you want to run it? So that doesn't mean in which term. It means, do you want to run it after school, before school, or at lunch? So it's quite a big thing to actually think about. The next thing is, as I said before, do you want to do just physics, or do you want to do maths, engineering, technology, biology, chemistry, and that together? Now, and the last bit is, how do you promote it and get kids interested? So all these questions I'm hopefully going to help answer over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the aim. These are just some of the aims that we came up with in our department when we started thinking about a Key Stage 4 physics and STEM club, is we wanted to ideally increase uptake, not only in physics, but all STEM subjects at Key Stage 5. So that includes maths, biology, chemistry, and technology. Currently at my school, for the last few years, we've had about 10 students take up physics, a few more in chemistry and biology and maths. This is out of about 150 students at year 11 and year 10 and 9. So we are hoping to get more students uptaking these STEM subjects because of this club. Next up, we want to make students more aware of the career choices that they can go into. A lot of students think, oh, that's just engineering or physics or become a doctor. They don't realise that all the different types of engineering they can go into, the apprenticeships, the different areas of STEM that there are. We wanted to generally just increase their interest in the different STEM subjects. So yes, make the club a bit fun, but also pique their interest at what is there more to come. We wanted to follow on from a successful Key Stage 3 STEM club that we run. We have about 30 students that come every week to Key Stage 3 STEM club. So we're thinking to ourselves, well, what is there for them once they finish Key Stage 3? Do we just stop them coming? Do we set up something else for them? So we wanted something for them to then go to. And we also wanted to increase this idea of thinking like a physicist or a problem solver. That kind of engineering brain that we try to promote in students. So, setting up a STEM club. What can you do when initially setting up a STEM club? Now, just to let you know the story of my own STEM club, we originally had a physics club, and I didn't realise in our maths department they also had an engineering club. So we ran ours on a Tuesday, they ran theirs on a Friday. As soon as we kind of realised after a few weeks that they were both running, we decided to combine them. Now, we originally only had year 10, and we had about 15 year 10s coming, and then that was due to COVID. But now that COVID is mostly gone, and we're allowed to mix year groups, we also have year 9 coming. So we have about 30 kids coming, a mixture of 15 to 20 of each of the year group each week. And we run it at lunchtime. So I was running the physics club on a Tuesday lunchtime. My colleague was running the engineering club on a Friday lunchtime. And instead of limiting it to one lunchtime, we decided that we'll just run the club together. He would run Friday, I'd run Tuesday still because of our busy timetables. And students, if they missed one, they could turn up to the next one or they could turn up to both. It was up to them. Now, promoting your club. So you've got the aims, you've had a thought about when it could be, how do you now promote it? First bit is get some keen students to make a fancy poster. You'll have some great Key Stage 4 students who will love media and poster design and art. Get them to draw something or make a nice poster and get them to post around school. They know the key areas that students sit in. They have all the friends that may want to attend this club. Try and get them to promote it as much as possible. emails to parents as well. If you've got a area, a SharePoint or a VLE that parents have access to, putting posters on there for them is a great way of promoting it. You can also get a slide to go on tutor time and in science lessons. You could show that across the first half term to really just keep pounding in students to keep it coming along. And try to share with students what kind of rough ideas you're doing each term. Because you may find, for example, the first term you're doing activities which some students just aren't interested in. But then the next term, you may find that those students that didn't come the first time around go, oh, actually, I'm interested in that this time. I'll come along to those activities. So you may get some students that aren't regulars that will come just based on what you're planning on doing. And also, if you run any internal competitions, like, for example, straw towers, egg drops, those kind of standard STEM ideas, announce the winners. If there's any prizes, show them holding the prize, because that will easily promote this to students as well. And last up, if you have a school newsletter or website, provide fortnightly or weekly updates. That really piques students' interest as well. If they see that some of the students are having fun shooting off rockets, they'll go, oh yeah, I'll go to that. That looks good. And they'll go to that, and that will help as well. Now what? You've promoted, you've got your aim, you've got some ideas. Now what? Do you have one-off sessions? Do you have half-termly or termly projects that students do? Or do you think you might have a mix? And those students that regularly come, how do you make them feel valued? And the ones that maybe are a bit skeptical or shy, how do you make them feel like they belong to the club? How do you create a community? Hopefully I'll give you some ideas for all three of these things in the next section. So one-off tasks. Now, this is just in my experience how I found one-off tasks. They are fun and they pique students' interest. They're great. They're quick 20 to 30-minute sessions. Now, I found that they were less valuable than projects, and they cause more work for me because I have to plan a 30-minute session. I have to not only make it fun, but also kind of try and give as much value and science behind it as possible. There's no point shooting off bottle rockets for 30 minutes if students don't understand the science behind it, for example. But the great thing about the one-off sessions is you can think to yourself, how can I combine some one-off sessions to make it more like a project? How can you link different one-off tasks into a project so students can link different parts possibly of STEM or the curriculum into one area of expertise? That we found was quite a nice way to do it. It did create more work, but we found that that was the most valuable thing to do. So here's some examples of one-off tasks we've done this year. For example, you might see eye dissection there, which is a lot of people might think is biology, but it is in the year 11 waves topic about the eye, not necessarily eye dissection, but learning about the eye. So we did an eye dissection with students and they absolutely loved it. Now we found that students would either maybe not have enough time in 30 minutes of lunch. One all-class lunch is 40 minutes at our school, but once the kids come in, they're eating lunch at the same time, they don't have a lot of time to actually do tasks. So you have to find them really quick. And it can take a lot of work set up. For example, helping them set up light gates. Sometimes by the time students have set up the light gates, they haven't got much time to practice with them. So think about kind of the things that you're doing at the time. Some of them may take teacher setup rather than student setup beforehand. But there's just 8 of the tasks that we have done this year, and a lot of them you can find online. Now, projects, we did find that sometimes if you give a competition type project, it can drag on. So for example, one of the projects I'll talk about in a minute, instead of going on for a half term like we wanted it to, it went on for nearly a whole term, just because the students struggled with it and needed a bit more time to finish. We did, however, find it was more valuable. Students gained skills. They could tell us what skills they gained from it. They could really critique and evaluate their performance on the project. So we did find it much more valuable. And you can really talk about the science behind each thing a lot more than on a one-off task. Also found that once you kind of plan the project, you can kind of just let the students go and do it themselves. You don't have to explain and teach every little bit all the time and plan a PowerPoint or something every single week. And there's loads of ideas out there, from the RAF to the European Space Agency. There's there's projects from the IOP, from STEM, everywhere that you can find on these projects for STEM clubs. Some of them I found were more targeted to a Key Stage 3, so I had to think to myself, how can I make this more difficult for a Key Stage 4? Sometimes you have to do that, but there are a lot out there. Here's just 3 of the projects that we have done so far this year. Now, the concrete bridges was actually a real hit. Instead of making kind of like paper bridges or little popsicle stick bridges, we wanted them to build concrete bricks and then somehow put those concrete bricks together to make a bridge. And we tested them out, and nearly, even though some designs were better than others, every bridge could take over 30 kilos of weight, which we were massively surprised about. I even tried to stand on one, and I couldn't break it, and I weigh 75 kilos. But that did drag on. That's the project I was talking about. It nearly took a whole term because students, some of their bridge broke and they had to start from scratch, or some of them, their initial design needed work, so they needed to change it. But that was a really interesting project that students learned a lot from. Now, the next one we did was an astronomy project. So this is where we did a lot of one-off tasks that linked all together in terms of astronomy. Making moon landers is, for example, a bit like the egg drop challenge, but to do with moon landers. That's an ESA project. And then there's lots of different things like line spectra and spectroscope we looked at. If anyone's ever done speed of light of a chocolate bar in a microwave, that kind of thing, that was the astronomy project altogether. It was a bit more work for the teacher, but because they're kind of things that physics teachers maybe would have done before, you already would have had those tasks ready to go. And the one we're doing this half term, mainly because of is the weather's nicer, but because students have to dip in and out, we're doing the physics behind rockets going along in straight lines, going in angles, a bit of projectile motion in there. We're doing bottle rockets with parachutes and the egg having to land safely, that kind of thing. We are finding that a little bit of a challenge because with year 10s and their mock exams, and we've got work experience week, it might be a bit of a challenge for students to finish that, but hopefully they'll get something out of it in the end. Now, you've done all your projects, it's going along nicely. How do you keep those kids keen, and how do you reward your regulars and create this idea of a sense of community? Now, one thing we invested in was pins or badges, and these are just some photos of pins and badges that we got for our students, and they absolutely love it, and they wear them with pride all around the school. And on every photo and every newsletter that goes out, you can clearly see these badges, which is a really nice thing to see. Now, you could get t-shirts, but at our school, because there's a school uniform, they can't wear them, but we haven't invested in them yet. We're thinking about, if we run a trip, maybe kids can wear them on the trip, but we're unsure yet. But you could do something like that if you wished. Now, cakes and biscuits, we all know that 99% of students are absolute vultures. So any kind of cake or biscuits you can bring in once a week for them really kind of gets them excited and coming along. It's a nice, easy thing. We find that we rotate maybe cakes, biscuits, chocolate, sweets once a week is a nice keen thing. And you don't have to spend a lot, £2, £3 a week, something like that. Just have them have one little cake each. They appreciate it. But the question is, where do you get funding for these things? So I get asked this a lot. Oh, how do you manage to actually get these pins? How do you manage to fund t-shirts? How do you have money to buy concrete mix, things like that? So this is, I find, one of your biggest challenges. So the Ogden Trust, if you're part of an Ogden Trust hub, you can apply for money from that. We got £250 a year for cakes and biscuits alone. But they said we can use it for equipment as well. So we spend our Ogden Trust money on a bit of the concrete mix and mortar and gravel, and also a lot of cake and biscuits. Now, I also have reached out for an IOP grant as well, and I'm just waiting to hear about this, but this is for a trip. but this comes around 3 times a year, these IOP grants that you can apply for. Now, we also received £500 from an ASE inclusion project. If you're not part of the ASE inclusion project, get on it. It's brilliant, and it also helps you think about how you can encourage girls and other underrepresented groups into physics and STEM. And we found that more than half of the students that come to our STEM club are actually girls, more than half. So it's a really great way of encouraging more girls into physics and engineering later on. We have spent that money on posters that students picked of underrepresented scientists. So, for example, they wanted, and it's not just in STEM, they wanted to do something for the whole school. So, for example, young blood is an LGBTQ person in music, so they got a person like that for music. Kind of more common people like Alan Turing, they wanted for computing. I let them pick the people that they wanted and research. So we've got posters now, big A1 posters of those people around different departments as well. And also your existing STEM school budgets. I know budgets are tight, but £50 from each department, there's tech, all of science, there's maths, there's so many budgets there that £50 per subject won't make a difference. And honestly, go to your head's department, they'll realise they'll have £5, £10, £15, £20 at the end of the year just left over for God knows what. And down the line, you have to think of the investment. If you get one more kid taking your subject at A level, that is massive, massive money to the school. So it makes a big difference. It was small bits from each department. Okay. Now, the last bit I'm going to talk about is trips. And the key thing is think local. So another rewards thing we're doing for our regulars is we're going to take them on a trip. And as I said before, we're hoping for that IOP grant money to come in so that we can fund a coach to take them. And most of these trips are free that you can take them on. So, for example, Sizewell B Fission Power Station is about a couple of hours from us. It's the farthest one, I think, on there. But that's nice and free. The Cambridge Cavendish Laboratory near Cambridge is a great visit, and there's loads of history behind that, especially in Year 9 lessons. We talk about the Cavendish Laboratory a lot with radiation and history of the atom. And then there's, for us, as we're in between Peterborough and Cambridge, there's the home of Newton, Woolsthorpe Manor, not very far away. That's a nice little day trip you can take students out to as a reward. And that is the end of my talk. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've gained some great ideas and had some questions answered and thoughts about running your own Key Stage 4 Physics Club. Thank you very much.